Well, good evening. Welcome to Grover Hill Zion United Methodist Church Thursday evening devotions from the kitchen table, where we've been talking about a number of different topics. This week is, of course, the second day of Lent. Yesterday, Lent began yesterday with Ash Wednesday, and so we're going to do some Lenten topics. I heard what's causing me to do this is I heard this week, yesterday or the day before, some national spokesperson talking about the family and why the family was suffering and why there was so much violence and all that. And of course, there's more than one reason, but he said, as he saw it, it was the biggest reason why the family was suffering is that it was being torn apart. That people, when they went to church, that families were held together and they were strengthened. But now there are various factors that are tearing the family apart, and they're weakening the family as well. And when the family is weak, morals and values change. So that in many cases they're not even taught anymore, according to him. And so I thought, well, I just want to share with you a little bit. He said that attendance is down all over the country. Of course, he was a national figure, he would know that. But I talk with many people each week from various churches around our area, and church attendance is down all over. All over. Wherever you go, it's down all over. There may be one or two exceptions, but for the most part, it's down. So I got to thinking about what the scriptures say, and the writer of Hebrews writes in Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24-25, he writes, "Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works, and let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is near." It's becoming near and near. You know, God knew that our human tendency is just to stop meeting together. We don't need much of an excuse. COVID was a big excuse to stop meeting together. So to isolate ourselves unnecessarily, we can do that quite naturally, I guess you could say. And God knew that if members of the early church neglected regular in-person meetings, they would miss out on mutual encouragement and motivation, and a host of other things. And I'll share a few of those points with you in a minute. And along those lines, here's a article that I came across many years ago, and I just looked it up again in my files, and it just simply says, "Why go to church? Why go to church?" We're out of the habit of going now. Going to church is like a habit, and when they say it only takes 3 times, and you've got a new habit started. So if you miss 3 Sundays of church, and you start doing something else, the next thing you know, you've got a new habit started, whether you realize it or not. You have to decide which is most beneficial. Anyway, this article goes on saying that a church goer wrote a letter to the editor of his local newspaper and complained that it made absolutely no sense to attend church every Sunday. He said that I've gone to church for 30 years now, and in that time, I've heard something like 3,000 sermons, but for the life of me, I can't remember a single one of them. So I think I'm wasting my time, and the pastors are wasting theirs by giving sermons at all. And of course, as you might expect, it said that in this letter to the editor column, it started quite a debate going back and forth. And of course, that made the newspaper very happy. People would buy the paper just to see what they were debating about. Finally, and that went on for several weeks, and finally, after a few weeks, Another person wrote this article saying, I've been married for 30 years now. In that time, my wife has cooked something like 32,000 meals. But for the life of me, I cannot recall the entire menu for a single one of those meals. But I do know this: they all nourished me, and they gave me the strength I needed to do my work. If my wife had not given me these meals, I would be physically dead today. Likewise, if I had not gone to church for nourishment, I would be spiritually dead today. When you are down to nothing, God is up to something. Faith sees the invisible, believes the incredible, receives the impossible. Thank God for our physical and our spiritual nourishment. And I thought, I was sitting here thinking about some of the benefits of going to church. And of course, there are many more benefits than just these. I'll share with you. There are 5 benefits that I just wrote down. And so there are many others as well, and you may think of many more. But the first thing is that when you meet and fellowship with other people in the congregation, when you worship with others, when you worship God and when you worship Christ, it fills that emptiness that's inside of you. You know, if you've been away from church for a while and you've got a new habit started, eventually you'll feel that there's something missing in your life and you're trying to figure out what it is. You've filled all that with busyness and you want to know what's happening. Well, listen, when you come and you worship with others, it helps to fill that emptiness that is longing to be filled. Secondly, fellowshipping with others, your spirit is renewed and it's strengthened when you do that. We draw encouragement and strength from each other. You have an opportunity to help others develop ministry skills as you let them minister to you. Some folks say, well, I don't want anybody minister to me. Well, listen, we're called to minister to others, but we also are called to let others minister to us so that we can be refreshed and replenished and renewed in our spirits as well. 4, it will strengthen your family life. It will. You will discover that as a family, when you come together to worship Christ together, that your family will draw closer. And you may think you can't get any closer. I think you can. And the last one I'll share with you is you put your faith into practice so that it becomes more real to you and you receive blessings from it more so than you ever perhaps could have imagined or maybe you even forgot. We're called to come together, to be together in worship and fellowship. And so we're told not to forsake the fellowship of believers for those reasons and many more. So something to think about. Have a great and blessed week. Hope to see you in church somewhere this Sunday. Okay.